Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to be talking about what basically consumed the entirety of my 2024, and it is the anime called Meet You at the Blossom, and how it was the most sweetest adaptation of a anime that finally made it out of censorship jail. Let me just talk about that for a little real quick. Like, there are so many anime that are available that unfortunately are going through so much censorship jail that honestly I was surprised that this one even made it out. However, I do believe because it was a co-production between Taiwan and Thailand, it was able to somewhat make it out into actual production. And honestly, props to everyone in the crew, the actors, and everything, because this show was just so beautiful. The acting, the dialogue, the music, the costume. Like, I was so pleased that I decided make a review about it so other people can watch it. So before we begin, please like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know down below what other anime has been stuck in censorship jail. And let's begin. So this drama, where do I begin? I was perusing to Twitter and I saw the poster for this one, and I was like, this seems a little interesting. I'm intrigued. As you may have previously seen in my other videos, I did talk about other animes that I'm currently reading or about to read, and this was just right around my alley, as I really love the costume period style dramas. I was very interested to see how everything was going to work out, especially given that so many animes go through censorship jails, and I wanted to see how they were going to actually bring the story to life. So Meet You at the Blossom basically follows two characters, Jin Xiaobao, which his name in general is so cute, it means a little dumpling if I'm not mistaken, and how he is the son of a wealthy merchant family, and how they have been grinding in his ears like, when are you gonna get married? Like, you're of that age. We need to make sure that you have a potential suitor because soon the business is going to be handed down to you, and we can't hand it down to your sister because, you know, misogyny. But he's like, oh my gosh, you guys, like, don't worry about it. I have so many potential suitors. Meanwhile, Jin Xiaobao can't even hold down a cup of water. Like, he is so naive, and up to the point where during the show, I was like, Xiaobao, stand up! Like, no, truly, my Pookims. Like, there's only so much cinnamon roll in you, to the point where I need you to start growing thick skin, because you're getting tussled around, and I need you to pick up the pace, do something. And the reason why I say that is later on in the video, he goes through so much trials and tribulations that I'm like, damn, honestly, if this was my plate, I would send it back to the kitchen, because this is just too much. This is too much. But Jin Xiaobao tells his parents, like, don't worry, there's like 3 potential suitors cross town. Like, I'ma come back with a wife, and you guys are gonna be proud about it. And they're like, okay, like, we'll believe you when we see it. So then he takes his guardsmen who have been with him through every stage of his life, even when he had his brief little staycation at a brothel, if you will. So they go through the route through the forest. They encounter a fight, and at first, Jin Xiaobao is just like, let's take a different route. But then, at the corner of his eye, he sees this, what he considers the star of his eye, the angel upon mortals, the celestial being of the night, his future wife, Hua En. Now, what Xiaobao doesn't know is Hua En is not a maiden. He's a pretty man, if you will, who just, given the time period, I wouldn't really fault Xiaobao because everybody and their mama was having long hair. So you really couldn't tell if it was a he, a she, or a they unless you got real close and personal. So, you know what? I'm gonna give it to him. But the fact that Xiao Bao said, leave those other 3 potential suitors across the waters. I don't care about them no more. I'm caring about this celestial beauty that's fighting these men's. I need her. I want her. And he tells his guardsmen, you guys, actually, we gotta go help her. And they're like, so, but you don't gotta question me. You just do what I say. So they go to try to help Hua En, which, honestly, Hua En didn't need any help because Hua En has these particular martial arts skills where he is just flying across the screen, standing his ground. And at one point, one of the people that were fighting him cornered him and threw these darts, which everyone, including myself, thought was poison. But the person who threw the darts was like, and let's see if you're going to be able to get yourself out of this one. Turns out it was an aphrodisiac. And Xiao Bao, not knowing any better, he's just like, oh my god, my wife, my maiden, how dare you hurt my wife? And Hua En is just like, get off of me, like, I need to go. Things are not feeling how they're supposed to be feeling and everywhere, and I need to leave. And Xiao Bao is like, my maiden, no, like, let me help you. And then Hua En is like, if you don't get off of me, then don't be upset with me when I push you down. And Xiao Bao's like, my maiden, how crass. Before we even exchange our vows in the dark moonful night? Oh, be still my beating heart. And Hua En is like, fool, no, I really need to leave. Like, either you let me go or I take you down in the process. So Hua En obviously is now feeling, how can I say this where I don't get demonetized? He's feeling a little hot and bothered. So he is trying everything to calm down. He started ripping off his clothes. Xiao Bao being like, oh my god, stop. Hua En is like, no, you need to go. And at one point he is dipping into the lake and Xiao Bao is like, she's gone crazy. Don't off yourself. We just met. Let me help you. And then things happen to the point where it's 3 days later. Xiao Bao is in a completely different setting. He's no longer in the forest. And his back is hurting. He's confused. He's like, things are hurting in places they shouldn't be hurting right now. And I'm in a place I've never been before. Dancing maids come in and she's like, oh, my young master, you're finally awake. And he's like, what do you mean finally awake? How long have I been asleep? And then the maid is like, it's been 3 days. Like, imagine 3 days of no contact. Everybody in Xiao Bao's palace is going crazy because they're trying to figure out what happened after he went to try and court these 3 ladies. And he's out here getting princess treatment. It was just very wild. And for that to be the introduction to the series, hilarious. I ate it up. So we follow how Xiao Bao now is trying to come to terms with what just happened. Honestly, bless his heart. And how Hua En keeps pushing him, giving him the cold shoulder because he's like, honestly, it was my bad. I apologize profusely. I will pay you with whatever monetary amount you need. But you need to leave my premises because I got a job to do. Xiao Bao returns back home, telling his parents, like, you guys will not believe it. I found my maiden. And they're just like, what? And Xiao Bao is just like, don't worry about it. Like, once you see them, you'll understand why I did what I did. And turns out that Hua En actually an assassin from the opposing faction that are going against the king of the realm. And that king supposedly has secret shady businesses with all the rich merchants of the various villages. And one of those rich merchants turns out to be Xiao Bao's parents. And now the show delves into the whole intricacies of how Xiaobao's parents got to where they are in terms of their wealth and power, and the things they had to do and the people they had to take out to get there. And that includes Hua En. Now, Hua En's backstory at first was very secretive. We didn't get much in the first 2 episodes because, again, the whole premise of the first 2 episodes was more comedic. However, the more the story progresses, it does have a shift in tone. It's a bit more dramatic, very, very much melodramatic. Like, I'm talking, y'all, I was crying for the last 10 episodes because it was getting very intense. And we learn through the interactions that Hua En has with Xiaobao that the whole reason he was in the forest to begin with is because he was on a mission to gather information or intel on the merchants that are supporting the king. And lo and behold, one of the merchants he needed to get information from was Xiaobao's parents. And that's how at first Hua En does this whole pseudo relationship with Xiaobao just to get his guards down so he can snoop around the court. But because this is a drama and relationships will blossom, hint, 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 just like the name, Hua En slowly starts to fall in love with Xiaobao because, you know, Xiaobao, genuinely, what I loved about his character in particular was when he falls in love, he falls 100%, to the point where his parents were like, I think Hua En is an enemy of the state. And Xiaobao was like, don't you ever speak ill of my wife. And his mom was like, you know, he's a man and I don't care about that. That's my wife regardless. Don't speak ill of her. Don't even mention anything bad about her. You may be my mother, but that's my wife first. Like, he was 100% ride or die. Hua En can do no wrong until he did do wrong. And that's when it gets more into the melodramatic aspects of the show towards episode 6 through 10. And y'all, at one point, I was getting frustrated. Not with the show itself, but because the way the story was unfolding, I'm like, Xiaobao, please give Hua En a second chance. He didn't mean to accidentally try to sabotage your family and in the process potentially have your whole entire existence wiped off of the face of the earth because turns out your parents are traitors to the state. But Hua En will still try to figure out to save you. Yes. Well, like, I genuinely was rooting for this man even in his wrongs because at the end of the day, Hua En did not have the same upbringing as Xiaobao. Xiaobao was raised with love and care. Hua En was raised with a forced hand on submission and basically not trusting anyone, not even his pseudo father. So when he meets Xiaobao and is able to experience things that other normal people have had, it was like, and this may sound a little corny, a whole new world for him. And he wanted to continue to latch onto that. And when it turns out that Xiaobao's parents were the traitors and Hua En needed to take them out, it was like, do I sacrifice my love for Xiaobao and the stability that he has given me, or do I continue following the orders of my father because my father has manipulated me to the point where whatever he says goes, even when I know it's wrong? Like, there was so much character development throughout the show, and I genuinely loved every second of it. And just a little spoiler in case you do end up watching it, there are some instances of intense torture. It wasn't too graphic, however, seeing what Xiaobao had to go through, I was like, my poor Pookums. He does no wrong. He just loved the wrong person at the wrong time. But overall, I thoroughly enjoyed the show. Like, Everything about it was amazing. Usually lots of these shows release a box set that comes with all these inclusions. I ended up following both the actors for the show, and honestly, I'm excited to see where they go next in terms of their pairing dynamic, because this was actually Lele, or Leslie, his first role, as well as Wang Yun Kai, or Kai Kai, which is his cute little nickname. And I personally think they did such a wonderful job in bringing the characters to life. I'm hoping they do more things together, even if they're not in the same BL pairing. I generally am very quite excited to see where their careers go off. And if I'm not mistaken, the side characters from the show did end up branching off to have their own TV show, but I generally was super pleased with the story and the show and everything. And I did try reading the web novel through Wattpad. Yikes, I know, but it was the only way I could find the actual web novel, as if I'm not mistaken, I'm not even sure it's available to be read anymore. Even the original one in Mandarin. So from what I was able to read on Wattpad, I'm actually very happy they did change certain aspects of it, because hey yo, what was going on in that story? Like in the original Meet You at the Blossom, Xiao Bao is still very naive, still very cutesy. He's a little bit more chubbier to match his name, and Hua En is very much match the description of the original character for Hua En in the web novel. However, the age gap was questionable at best. However, in the drama, I appreciated the direction that they went with, because it gave it a little bit more, I wouldn't say realistic, however, it was a good portrayal of what falling in love for the first time feels like, and the possessiveness that comes with it, especially when you have been manipulated for most of your life. So I liked how the drama was able to achieve that in a way where I was like, this is a little toxic, but I get it. You know what I mean? So I did like that. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe the translated version was supposed to be available through a paid service, but I wasn't able to find that even when the show was airing, so I'm not sure if that's still an option anymore. But if it is, please comment down below where I can read the full story. Other than that, I personally would give this show a 4 out of 5. It wasn't a full 5 because I felt like we could have gone 50 episodes. And I'm not one to watch like really long, drawn out dramas. I really have to be in the right headspace for that. But this one in particular, I just feel like we could have easily gone 50 episodes, just because some aspects of the show I felt needed a little bit more exposition, or just a little more time with it, because given that the runtime for each episode was 44 to 50 minutes, there's only so much you can put in that time slot before you have to cut some things out. And I personally feel like this could easily have gotten a second season as well. You know, just out here saying we could get a season 2 and I would still watch it. But other than that, the music was again so beautiful. The main leads, Lila and Kai Kai, sang the entirety of the ode. At one point, this was my most played album for the month, for the last quarter of 2024. Like, you guys, I absolutely love when the actors sing the odes for their respective shows, because it's like the character has an extra outlet to profess their love, their sadness, their sorrows through the means of music. The odes for this show was just so beautifully done. For instance, A Dream of Deep Love, that one is sang from the perspective of Jin Xiaobao and how he is professing how he is willing to die for his love for Hua En, and you guys, tears on both sides. The other song that I love, and this is just me now raving about the entire OST, is Unafraid of Long Nights, and that is from the perspective of Hua En. And at this point in the show, Hua En is now between a rock and a hard place because Xiaobao is on the verge of passing away because of the decisions that his parents did to gain wealth and power. And in the process of doing so, Xiaobao it gets injected with this poison that debilitates him, and it gets worse the longer he stays alive. And Hua En, and this is just like a subplot to the story, Hua En is on the mission to figure out the antidote for that. But this song really amplifies the yearning and the willingness to do whatever it takes to save his love, the love that he never ever once thought would be available to him. So that was basically like a quick little review rundown of Meet You at the Blossom. It is available through Viki, Gaga Ulala, Ichi TV, and I believe WeTV if I'm not mistaken. And as of right now, there hasn't been any announcements as to whether or not we will be getting anything new from both of the actors. I do know right now they're doing lots of commercial work and modeling. However, I would be so happy to see them in a future project soon, and hopefully maybe a potential fan meet, because I genuinely loved every moment of them together, and the genuine care that they have for each other was just amazing. And yeah, that was my review. Please let me know if you've watched Meet You at the Blossom, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!